Many communities have populations of students who severely underperform relative to other demographic groups. These achievement gaps have been a focus in K-12 education efforts for many years. Such gaps also exist among the highest levels of achievement, a problem labeled excellence gaps. Excellence gaps are differences in scores at the advanced level among subgroups of students. This video focuses on 4 research-supported strategies that can help reduce excellence gaps: cluster grouping, front-loading, enhancing opportunities, and professional learning. Cluster grouping provides an organizational framework that places students into classrooms on the basis of achievement, flexibly groups and regroups students as needed for instruction, and provides appropriately challenging learning experiences for all students.
One program that we are involved in is called Total School Cluster Grouping. And what we do in that program is we identify all levels of kids from high to low. And we identify them basically on their achievement levels. And we deliberately separate the highest achieving kids, which are often the majority high-income kids who are easily identifiable as gifted. We put them in a cluster in one classroom, and then we take students who are above average, who are achieving pretty well, but maybe compared to the highest achievers, they don't reach that level, and maybe they don't reach that level because the high achievers are in the class with them, and they kind of keep the lid on. We put those high achievers, those above average kids, in other classrooms in a cluster group, and being in that classroom for a year with a teacher who is also trained in gifted education and talent development and strength-based focuses, those kids gain confidence, their achievement increases, and then when we re-identify, we actually find more children from underserved populations to be achieving at higher levels, and so they begin to move into the high achieving cluster, and they do so successfully.
What I like about cluster grouping is it's different from tracking, because tracking was a no-no, meaning it makes you sound like a train. Once you're on the track, you don't get off the track. Whereas with cluster grouping, it's flexible. So if I start out in a group, maybe the medium group, but I really start excelling in reading, I'm not stuck in that group. I will have the ability to move. So I like the flexibility of cluster grouping.
A second strategy that can reduce excellence gaps is front-loading. Efforts should be made to ensure that students are prepared to be successful in challenging programs. Front-loading prepares students to be successful when challenged.
The whole idea of front-loading is that in order to close these excellence gaps, we have to provide students with really challenging, rigorous opportunities. But we can't just say, okay, you're going to take, for example, 11th grade U.S. history advanced placement courses. Introducing rigor and challenge at that moment is not going to be successful for lots of students. When you're planning that, you have to bring the freshman and sophomore English and social studies teachers into the room to say, okay, how are you going to help prepare these students? But you can't start in 9th or 10th grade. You have to get the middle school teachers there saying, okay, how can we raise the game for these students? How can we support them? And of course, the middle school teachers would say, well, it doesn't start the day they get to middle school, it starts in elementary and preschool. So the whole idea of front-loading is to really help think about how we can help prepare students for opportunities at the end of the K-12 process, but really start planning for it at the very, very beginning.
Enhancing opportunities for advanced learning also reduces excellence gaps. However, emerging research suggests that communicating about the opportunities may not be enough to get low-income students involved. Persuasive, persistent communication with the students and their caregivers may be necessary to convince them that the opportunity is worth pursuing. Jennifer Stith, gifted and talented resource teacher at King Elementary, describes how she increased participation in a summer academic camp.
I was able to, with the students in my building, really encourage them every day at school. Don't forget to sign up for camp. So I started there, and I talked about how fun it is, and I put a little sparkle in my eye, and I said, and I'll be there, and I can't wait to see you this summer. We're gonna have so much fun and learn, and so that got them piqued, their curiosity piqued. And then I followed through with parents. I made phone calls. I sent letters home. I worked with our ELL teachers a lot because a lot of our students at King, their parents don't speak English as their first language. I was really excited to have the turnout that we did.
We know now that just providing the opportunity to students who could benefit the most from them isn't really enough. We need to make sure that transportation isn't a big issue, because we're in a country that doesn't have great public transportation. So a poor family, if there's an opportunity 2 miles away, that could be a 1 mile walk and 3 different buses. It might as well be on Mars for lots of families. So we've gotten much better about things like making sure there aren't fees, making sure that there are scholarships, that we can help students get there. But what we're finding, especially in urban and rural areas, is that the family really needs to be convinced often that these opportunities are valuable for them. It's not enough to provide the opportunity and make sure there are few barriers to participating. A lot of these families have not had opportunity before, and we tend to look at it through this middle class lens of my kid deserves every opportunity. That's because we're used to opportunity. We know the value of it, but lots of families don't. Generational poverty kind of strips that away from you. So making sure that we offer the opportunities, that we make sure that there are very few barriers, but then making sure that we're really recruiting and encouraging students to take advantage of those opportunities is really critical.
Offer opportunities with few barriers. A fourth way to reduce excellence gaps is through education. Pre-service and in-service educators, principals, teachers, counselors should have professional learning on the needs of high-ability students and strategies for promoting high achievement among all students.
I think one really important point here that superintendents and principals need to think about is that you can't assume that beginning teachers, school counselors, social workers, people in your buildings working with your students have any training in gifted education or really any sensitivity to the need to close excellence gaps. For whatever reason, it's just not taught in educator preparation programs. I believe the last study that we did, we found 6 states require any coverage at all. That's not a course, that's any coverage at all. And even in those states, it's required, but it's not really enforced. So the vast majority of our beginning educators have never had any exposure to this. That makes the role of professional development critically important.
The role of professional learning is critically important in closing excellence gaps. Using the research-supported interventions of cluster grouping, front-loading, enhancing opportunities, and professional learning will shrink excellence gaps in your school and district. Our students deserve the opportunity to be challenged so they can learn at advanced levels. Mario Hernandez, 10th grade student at Warren Central High School, Warren County Schools, has this to say about the need for higher level learning.
Kids that want to be challenged need to be challenged. They can't just sit in classes, because I know a lot of kids that they were very talented before, and they still are. But the moment the classes get hard, they quit, they stop. Challenging them before would help them a lot, because they would recognize that being challenged is something that they like to do, and that they need to have to be able to succeed. Because once they quit, they can't do it again. They need to know what being challenged feels like before they need to be challenged.
For more information about reducing excellence gaps, go to www.wku.edu/gifted.